Hello everyone, and welcome to our second Get to Know Your Neighbours event. We'd like these sessions to be an opportunity for tenants and local businesses to hear a little bit more about what's going on at the park. Hopefully it will foster some new collaborations and conversations and introduce you to some of the people who are beavering away here most days and all the exciting projects that they're working on. Please, like I say, feel free to keep your cameras on so everyone can see your smiley tea drinking faces. Housekeeping wise, each presenter today will talk for no more than 10 minutes. I'll try and keep everyone on track. You, Sean. And we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So please pop your questions in the chat, or if you're feeling shy, then just send them to me and I can read them out at the end. So today's lineup, it's a goodie. We're going to hear from two long-standing Plymouth Science Park tenant businesses, Made with Maturity and Acronyms, and also my new colleague, Sean McConnell, who will be talking about the new Health Tech Innovation Hub and Advanced Digital Manufacturing Innovation Centre, which have both recently opened here at the park. So without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce Ben Sterling, who is co-founder and UX lead at Made with Maturity. Made have been with us since, I believe, the start of 2018, and their business has gone from strength to strength over the last 4 years. So today, Ben is going to be talking about improving your website with UX design. So over to you, Ben.
Brilliant. Thanks, Faye. I'm assuming you can all hear me okay? Brilliant. Right, I'm going to share my screen. Got a bit of a presentation. So give me 2 moments to do that. Okay, hopefully you can see my proper presentation and not my admin screen. Is that right? Yep, yeah, all good. Brilliant. So, yes, as Faye said, my name is Ben Sterling. And I'm the co-founder of Made with Maturity. We're a UX web design agency based here at Science Park. We're based over in phase 2 building. Obviously, lots of you guys are aware where phase 2 is. And we have a coffee machine in the office, and we have a lot of cookies as well. So we actually have a hashtag on Twitter and LinkedIn, which is share the cookie love. So if you know us, or if you've ever been over here, you'll know of our love for cookies. So we're always up for a conversation. I like to think we're a friendly bunch. So if you ever just fancy a coffee, a cookie, a chat about web design, or just a chat about anything, then come over, sit on the sofa, grab a cookie. We'd love to get to know you, really would. So today, I'd like to take you through our kind of UX web design process when we're thinking about creating a new website or about improving some part of your marketing. So we follow this process all the time, every time we do a project. Every time, basically, we create websites that have, where we try and make a measurable difference. That's, I guess, the kind of sites that we do. So this is the process that we do. It's not really a sales pitch. I've been told by Faye, this shouldn't be a sales pitch. So it's not a sales pitch. But it's more of an explanation of our process. And if you are the kind of person or company that likes to look after your website on your own and do your marketing on your own, then hopefully you can take a lot of this process and put it into your own practice, and hopefully you'll see some results from it. If you're the kind of company that prefers to work with an agency, then you can work with us. Sales pitch over. So our strapline is we create environments where your digital projects will thrive. And we like to think that creating a successful website is a bit like growing a tree. So first we prepare the ground, and this is our research and insights phase to make sure we're building on the right foundations. Then we plant the tree, which is the designing and building of the website. And then finally, we're concerned with growing and growth rather than maintenance, where we're looking to test and refine until we see continued success for websites. So that's a little bit about us and our journey. In terms of the clients that we work with, although we're based here in Plymouth, we do work locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally with a range of different clients. So you can see just a sample of the kind of clients we work with. We do actually work with quite a lot of businesses on the park. So even though people might see some of the big names we work with, we're not adverse to working with companies of all sizes. So we do like working with companies on the park especially, and we're actually running a bit of a discount for 10% discount for Science Park tenants at the moment. So in today's session, the things I'm going to talk about is what is UX design, the explanation of our UX process, a bit about our research and insights phase, what user journey design is, user testing, and then finally the big non-salesy offer, because this isn't the sales pitch. So what is UX design? So UX design, or user experience design, is the process that puts your users at the center of your website, to understand their needs and then to meet those needs in an engaging and intuitive way. So that's what UX design is. It's about understanding your users and your customers, and designing for those needs. This is our kind of half infinity curve kind of process diagram. It will make more sense as we kind of go through it. But the very first stage is the UX research and insight stage. And we will generally look at 4 different areas. We'll look at who your audience is, who your competition is, a bit about your brand, and then the kind of existing web or media audit. And then from that, we'll have enough information to be able to kind of do some more kind of practical steps. So in terms of user research and looking at the audience, some of the kind of the tools that we would use would be things like looking at analytics, like Google Analytics or heat maps, maybe something like Hotjar, where you can actually see how people move around your existing website. Questionnaires, always a really good one for getting kind of audience insight. And I've just put some of these kind of free to use tools like Typeform or SurveyMonkey. Having a workshop or a focus group with some of your existing customers and existing users, just asking them about their behavior and their patterns of behavior. Looking at social media, like kind of reviewing comments people are putting on your own social channels, again, feedback on your own website, maybe forms and things you've had on there. And also kind of stakeholder interviews, interviewing people within the business, or your customers. And all those are really good ways of getting initial kind of research about your audience. The second thing we would do is always look at a competitor audit. So looking at what your competition is doing, looking at what they are saying on all channels, whether that be website, social, print, exhibition, whatever different channels they are. What are they saying? How are they behaving? One of the great things about social is you can see visibly the engagement, of your competitors' posts. Just, it's always interesting what posts are getting the most engagement. Always good data to have. Then looking like, have your competitors adapted? Especially, I know in the last sort of couple of years, a lot of user needs have changed with COVID. Looking at what they're doing is always very useful. And then once you've done that initial research of looking what your audience is what their needs are, is looking at how are your competitors maybe answering that need, or are they missing answering a need, which can be something you might be able to capitalize on. The third thing we'd look at is your brand proposition. So doing a brand review, looking at how you represent yourself visually, your DNA, your ethos, and how your kind of service ultimately answers your audience's needs. We often like to think you don't have to reinvent yourself. Often these things can just be kind of small adjustments rather than you've got to do a complete rebrand. It's just looking at how you're fitting into the market. And then the final part of our kind of research and insights phase would be kind of reviewing your current media. So mainly for us, it's looking at websites, but it should be all media really. So how does our current media kind of fulfill everything we've looked at? So whether that be web, social, advertising, or all your different media touch points. And then it's good, I always think, to kind of just put them into one of 3 categories. So what's kind of wrong and damaging, the things that we need to change like really quickly. What are the things that require changing but aren't kind of absolutely critical and urgent? And then what are things that are just fine? Because I'm sure there are things in all businesses in terms of marketing that are working. So it's not about just throwing everything out, it's looking at what's working, what isn't. So that's our kind of UX research and insights part. The next bit is, I guess, the practical bit where we can actually take all that information we've done and actually how do we put some practical steps around it. So when we come to UX design, we like to think specifically around user journeys. So from the previous phase, what your users' needs are. You've identified how you can answer those needs as an organization. And then we come to planning user journeys. And that's really just looking at breaking things down into really manageable steps. And when you're thinking about, how you're going to get one of your users or customers from one point to another, maybe through a decision-making journey or a bit of education, you think, how are we going to get them there? And it might be we're going to do it on one screen. We might do it across 2 or 3 screens, and that's the kind of what we call the user journey. We always encourage people to avoid information overload. It's very easy to kind of just put so much information onto a screen, onto a page, and actually just people kind of get lost. So really paring it back, and getting feedback. So getting your ideas, getting your designs, showing it to internal sort of other employees, people on your team. If you can, showing it to some real customers, some real users, getting some of their thoughts on it, making a few adjustments, and then implementing it. So, creating a website, making some adjustments to your website, and implementing it. So once it's live and we've done your development side, this kind of final piece, this kind of user testing piece, is the really key bit, because this is kind of where you're actually putting it out in the wild, and you're seeing, is it really working, and can it be adjusted? So a few things that we would do around user testing is we encourage people to test to a small group first, get their initial thoughts, and you can make a few kind of small tweaks. In our sort of technology world, this MVP term is quite common, but a lot of people haven't heard of it. MVP stands for minimum viable product. So encouraging people to spend a shorter amount of time, maybe on a website design and build, just to get it live and get some initial testing, than spending, 3 or 4 times the amount of time on it to get it completely what we believe to be perfect. And it might take us 6 months to do that. And then you find actually you've missed out some valuable kind of feedback from real customers. So that's the MVP we encourage people to do.
I'm just going to give you a 1-minute warning, Ben, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you. And then a feedback loop. So that's having customers where you can give you feedback on your designs, and then this kind of just refining, iterating until you see continued success. So that's our process. Hopefully that's the kind of process that if you like to do that sort of thing in-house, you can kind of use. Equally, if you're always looking for an agency, we're more than happy to have a conversation with you about that. I did say I'd finish with a big non-salesy offer today, which is our 10% off for PSP tenants at the moment. And that's us. So yeah, if anyone's got any questions, more than welcome to answer them. Equally, if anyone would just like a cookie, more than welcome to come into the studio and always have a bite to eat with us. Thanks, Faye.
Thank you very much. That's great. Are you in pretty much most of the time now back in the office, Ben, or someone?
We are, yeah. The team here is, we're here kind of, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So yeah.
Excellent.
Always around.
Okay. Thanks ever so much, Ben. So without further ado, our second speaker today is Tom Moore. He's Business Development Director at Acronyms. We've had the pleasure of having Acronyms on site for almost a decade now, I think, and have supported them throughout this period, really. They have seen sort of rapid and sustained growth, I think it's fair to say, throughout this period, and are continuing with ongoing success into 2022. So today, Tom is going to be helping you get to know Acronyms. So over to you, Tom.
Awesome, thank you very much. I'll just share screen. Cool, can you see that okay? Yeah, nice. So yeah, thank you, Faye, and thanks, Ben. Awesome presentation. So I'm Tom. I'm the Business Development Director over at Acronyms, and yeah, today I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about who we are and what we do. So I wanted to start just by giving you an idea about who we are, and the one big thing that I want to start with is our core values now, which are the partnerships, transparency, the ones listed there. For us, we live by these core values every day. So it's not just a case of these were created, put in a marketing, branding kind of exercise and then chucked out there. We try and live by these. So anyone in the organization, whether that be management, team leaders, employees, no matter who they are, we kind of try and challenge each other daily and go, whatever the decision is, how does it fit into our core values? Because that makes the decision. So is there extra work to be done? And actually that's not going to be, we're not going to be able to charge the client for that. Well, actually we're looking at long-term partnerships here. We're looking at exceeding expectations. So do you know what? Let's let that make the decision for us. So yeah, for us, it's about getting the correct solution, and that's really important. That's not just the most expensive solution or the cheapest solution, it's the correct solution. So in terms of the company, we were founded in 2003 by Dave Smith, and we've got 25 employees across Plymouth, Bristol and Cornwall. So we've got a small second office over in Bristol, which we launched in 2 years ago in January. So just before COVID started, we launched a second office in another city, which looking back was the most horrendous timing I could have ever put down. We had a 3-year plan. Life was going to be good. We were going to implement the 3-year plan. And in March, I basically picked it up. I put hours and hours and months of hard work into it and chucked it in the bin. So that made things tricky, but we're persevering. We've still got the office in Bristol, and it's going well. So as Faye said, we've been on the park now for about 10 years. And I mean, yeah, it's an awesome facility. I think we're really lucky to have it here in Plymouth. And still to this day, I had a client come and meet us last week, and they'd never been here before and were shocked to find out that it was here. So we've got 150 clients or so across multiple industries. I'll come on to talk about what we do, but we're incredibly fortunate that everyone needs IT, everyone needs telephony, everyone needs connectivity. And again, the reliance on those has only gone up more and more. And it's tricky to say, but over the last couple of years, in terms of remote working and COVID and that shift, we've been one of the industries that actually a lot of people have needed us a lot more. So we've been incredibly fortunate, but it's given us a really good opportunity to work even closer with our clients. So we're currently going through working towards a number of ISO accreditations, and we've got stacks and stacks of vendor accreditations. So I'm not going to put them all up here because we'd be here for days. So in terms of what we do then, we're an MSP, so a managed service provider. So in short and simple, that is, we're a one-stop shop for businesses. So if you need IT, telephony, connectivity, anything tech, then that's us. So the key, the flagship service which underpins everything is our IT support. Often we'll have that, and the other services, clients might have a mixture of them. They might have some, others, not others. But the IT support is the flagship service. So we run a 24/7 operation in terms of our support. We've got clients in healthcare. We've got clients that have to have support, have to have systems monitored 24/7. So yeah, we've got guys and girls out and about across the Southwest, across the UK, all the time. Now, in terms of, I could sit here and say, aren't acronyms great? Aren't acronyms wonderful? In terms of who we are, I've put our customer feedback stats up there for the last 6 months, and they speak for themselves. But again, for us, in terms of getting to know us, there's much more value for us in the negative and the neutral feedback than there is in the positive. But positive feedback's great for recognition and pat on the back, everyone's done a good job. But actually, neutral and negative is where you can learn stuff. You can kind of go, process didn't work there, actually, or we dropped the ball, or do you know what, things just happened. Life's never perfect. So we take a lot of learning out of that feedback. So in terms of the services that we offer outside of IT support, I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about those. So IT infrastructure. When I say IT infrastructure, more and more I mean the cloud. So people do have on-premise servers and things like that, but more often than not, now people are either hybrid or fully cloud-based in terms of their IT. I'm going to come on to talk about cloud in a bit more depth in a second. IT security, I can't seem to go more than 15 minutes without talking about IT security. It is constant, and the engagement in it is through the roof. And it's because businesses can't afford not to, really. The cybersecurity threats out there, I know we had Blue Screen Talk last week. The threats out there are growing, ever growing. There's been a lot publicized around Russia and Ukraine, But yeah, there's a lot going on, and businesses, the short of it, can't afford to have 3 days of downtime. It's just unacceptable in terms of it cost thousands and thousands. So security is an absolute must-have. So we spend a lot of time talking about that. And you can spend as little or as much as you want in terms of security. So it doesn't have to be, don't get me wrong, you can spend the world on it, but you can get security solutions starting from £1 all the way up. It really just depends on where your appetite is and where you need to be. Hardware is a necessity. I'm going to kind of skip over that one. Disaster recovery, again, really similar to security, but how do we ensure that the business is protected? So again, things happen, not just security, but that could be fire and flood, failure, internet outage, whatever it may be. How does the business continue to operate? So again, not letting that downtime happen. So IT consultancy is an interesting one. We tend to do more consultancy with firms whereby they have internal IT departments. So a company might have an internal IT and they cover all the internal support, so they don't need that function, but actually they don't necessarily have the skill set to complete a migration or complete a project. Now, we've been really fortunate. We've won a national contract with a UK home builder, and we provide them specific Azure consultancy. Now, their internal IT team is larger than our entire company, which is always really interesting. However, that's relatively generic skill set in-house. We provide some really high-end Azure stuff. So there's some cool work as well that we're doing. Cyber essentials is something, again, that's coming up more and more because clients as a necessity need it and have to have it. Cyber essentials plus, a lot of companies doing anything with public sector and tendering, you're kind of seeing them as standard. Mobile device management is interesting, and unified comms telephony. So clients now and employees in the day that we live in expect to be able to walk around, expect to be able to use a laptop or use a mobile and connect to not just email, but connect to software, access company data, work whenever, wherever. And obviously that's been accelerated in the last couple of years. But from our perspective, it's about retaining a bit of management and control, especially, and again, it's balancing that with things like GDPR. So how do you allow someone to use their phone and devices and work wherever and move around, but equally ensure that you've got that control of that data. And then finally, connectivity. So for the people on the park, PSP have got awesome connectivity, but outside of that, we provide connectivity solutions as well. So that's a little bit about the services that we offer. So last couple of things then. The data center at Plymouth Science Park, if you're not aware, it's an awesome facility. You should absolutely go and visit it. We use it in several different ways. So it's private cloud, but for us, things like we host people's entire systems from the data center, so they don't need to worry about it. It's in the cloud as far as they're concerned. Things like backup, VoIP telephony, we run hosted phone systems from PSP as well. So yeah, the key thing is it's a purpose-built facility. When we've had clients come and visit us, if they see the data center and they compare it to their office, it's an absolute no-brainer. So yeah, it is a really awesome facility and we're really lucky to have it. So being here for 10 years, naturally you just pass people in the corridors and things. We've been fortunate, we've done some work with people over the years and still do. So there's a few clients that we work with here. And yeah, we're always keen to work with people on PSP. It just makes our life easier. And it's nice, do you know what I mean? You spend a lot of time here. It is nice to be able to pass people and have that relationship with people. So that's me. If anything that I've said is relevant to anyone, then feel free to get in touch. I can share contact details, etc. But other than that as well, anything that's going on in terms of community on the park, whether it's running events or doing anything else, then we're always keen to be involved. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for the plug for the data center. That was great. Okay, we'll quickly move. I didn't even have to give you your 1 minute warning, but so thanks for that. So
no worries.
Next up, finally today, we've got Sean McConnell waiting in the wings. Sean joined PSP at the start of January as our new centre manager and additive manufacturing technologist. Sounds spectacular. Sean's background.
was going to say
Hang on.
I much prefer the term engineer, but okay, we can use technologist.
Sean's background's in development of advanced manufacturing solutions for multiple industries, previously working at the Irish Manufacturing Research in his native island, where he is today. With a background in design and experience in industrial additive manufacturing, Sean's well placed to help the new centres grow, hopefully. So I'll hand over to Sean so he can explain what on earth we're talking about.
Super. Cheers, Faye. So the slides are hopefully appearing now. Yes. Yes, I see some thumbs up and nods. Great stuff. So yeah, Sean McConnell. I'm here 2.5 months now, and I've already scurried back to Ireland because I couldn't be away too long and miss Paddy's Day. So you can't miss that. So I'm home at the minute, but yes, I'm now based in Plymouth, and as Faye said, I'm coming from a research centre in Ireland. So my background is in developing industrial links and manufacturing solutions using new technologies, but coming from a really kind of holistic research perspective, not trying to sell solutions or ideas. It's more about just solving challenges for companies, usually as part of a not-for-profit. So when Ian and Faye banged their heads together and managed to get funding for some lovely shiny machines, I thought, doesn't that look fun? So now I'm here starting from scratch again, which is always great. So great to meet everyone, and obviously thanks to Faye and the team for getting me introduced. So I'll jump straight on. So the HTIH, so as part of the grant to get new machines, we've established what is called the Health Technology and Innovation Hub. So what that is a seed funding for us to get some machines and equipment and people together to start working and helping with companies in the health sector. Luckily enough, our ambition also goes beyond that. So this is the first kind of gem in the crown, and then from here we'll be building out. So our onus is to get companies using really cool technologies to develop R&D projects, and then to enable startups to get using the same technology and the skill sets to hopefully create IP and new companies, and then finally working with existing companies to provide them with access to the equipment space and obviously the engineers that are able to use all this. So today we've been getting a good bit of traction, but the overarching kind of goal is to be a not-for-profit hub in a wheel, I suppose, that connects industry with academia with industrial solutions. So we're quite keen to be that bit in the middle. The HIH itself has certain metrics it needs to hit over the next number of years, which is engagement with companies, provision of jobs, retention of jobs, and then also the creation of clusters, etc. So we'll be working through all that in the next few years. So anyone who wants to get involved in that, just let me know. But as part of our initial jump, the first thing we've done is we've managed to get some machines in place, which is always great. So from the outset, the guys managed to get a tender done for a lovely large metal 3D printer. So the Renishaw 500S that currently prints in titanium, and then what came along with that was another machine called the 400, which actually prints in stainless steel. So we've had the two of them on site in what was the old conference room, which is now my lovely lab that's getting a load of new toys in the next few weeks. Excuse me. So now we've got metal printing capability, and the reason this is really important is because south of Bristol, there's nowhere that can offer this service, which is staggering to believe, but actually true. So if you zoom out and take a look at the UK, you'll see where all the centres of excellence and technology centres are, and this peninsula is devoid of that kind of activity, which is terrifying, given it was in the top 10 for areas that produce products through manufacturing. So we really believe that there's a space for this to develop it. So to date, we've managed to get the machines on site, get companies engaged with ourselves. We've managed to sign a contract this week with Babcock for them to be involved in machines. So we're getting buy-in from SMEs right up to multinationals. We're working with the university as well in developing R&D projects. And as I said, I'm having some lovely toys coming in the next few weeks, such as reverse engineering scanners, heat treatment furnaces, and lots of handheld tools and bits and pieces like that. So we hope now in the next few weeks and months we finish out this facility and see where it takes us from there. But the most important thing for me, and what I always try to get across to people, is that we're here to help. It's this is not a for-profit, making margin sales. This is open door policy, come in, see if we can help. If we can't, we'll point you in the correct direction. And that's really important. We're agnostic. So that's one of the reasons, for instance, Babcock have got involved, because we're not doing a sales pitch. We're completely open. They could go to the people who make these machines, but they want to sell machines. So that's why they've come to us, people who can be really open and honest. So from that, I'll jump into a little bit of technical. So powder bed fusion, the two machines you saw there, they were what would be described as powder bed fusion machines. So just to give you a quick taste of how they work and what my background is really in, and it's not obviously in presenting, but so the machine works on the process of melting powder using a high powered laser, as you can see in the video. So at the minute it's tracing across, so it's a 500-watt laser, and it's melting a 30 to 60 micron layer. So that's 0.06 of a millimeter thick every time. So it does that layer by layer by layer, doing a 2D scan, and it builds it up. So as it just comes to the front, as you can see, that's pulling across a new layer, because the base is just dropped down an increment. That will continue on for days and hours and sometimes weeks. And eventually it finishes, please, if everything goes well, and it reverses itself back up. All the powder spills out, and you get a lovely shiny part that I'll show in the next slide. So as you can imagine, a high-powered laser, argon, and explosive titanium powder can be dangerous to use. Luckily enough, there's plenty of safety systems but there is a significant barrier to entry to accessing these machines, which is why we've taken them on in the science park. So if I just give a few examples, now there is other ways to print metal, but that's the most prominent. So metal printing, that sounds like it's not going to work very well. It's going to be porous and you can't make real parts. Well, I can tell you now, if you get on an airplane, there will be parts that have been 3D printed on that airplane. There's a good chance that the blades in the engine are printed in northern Italy. The fuel injectors could be done in Cincinnati. And a lot of parts are made here in the UK. So anywhere you go now, you are likely to encounter these parts, and you will not be aware. If you need a knee or a hip in the next 20 or 30 years, there's a significant chance it's 3D printed in Cork in Ireland. So everything you can imagine is now up for grabs. So anything that was traditionally cast or die cast or even machined are now up to be used by 3D printing. So in the top right, that is a rocket engine. That's about a meter tall, but there are bigger ones out there printed in copper with internal cooling channels. So there is a literal space race on right now to use 3D printing for rockets. If you ever look up a company called Relativity, they are printing 5-meter high to 30-meter high rocket chambers. So the whole rocket is being 3D printed. So this isn't just a bit of fun with a laser. This is actual stuff that literally goes to space. So it's the high end and highest quality you can get, which is really, really encouraging. So when companies see this, go, right, crap, we better hurry up and catch up with all our competition. So with the Babcocks and all the SMEs around Plymouth, they don't have access to this technology, and that's where we slot in. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a tire mold. So that's fairly innocuous, but believe it or not, by 2025, every tire mold for Michelin tires will be 3D printed. So any tires you get, they will be molded on a 3D print mold. In the middle upper one is a case of heat exchangers for the LED lamps in VW cars, all 3D printed in aluminium. And the upper right is a sternum, a chest plate printed with the white bit is a 3D printed HDPE as well. So bespoke custom medical devices are also printed, and that's something we're really focusing on in PSP as well, which is great. And then one of my favorites is the bottom right, where you have the frame of a BMW SR1000, I believe. So that's the whole frame created using AM. Once again, it's using a proprietary alloy, and obviously you can design it any way you want. So as someone with a product design background, I love the fact that I can come up with really, really bad ideas from a manufacturing perspective, and then 3D printing can compensate for my inadequacy as an engineer. So really, really good technology to use. And then in the bottom, in the center bottom, that's the fuel nozzle for the GE LEAP engines, printed in cobalt chrome. That part alone nearly justified a 1.3 billion investment into 2AM companies. So 3D printing isn't just, you know, a bit of fun. It's a serious manufacturing capability that hopefully now that it's in PPSP, we can begin to engage all the companies across the region. So that is me. Any questions? That's all good.
I was just going to give you a 1 minute warning and you
Nah.
sneaked it in.
I always talk too fast and ramble.
That's great. Thanks ever so much, Sean. Really appreciate that. It's a very exciting time, I think, for the park. I love the idea of us being the jam in the sandwich, you know, of the city. So, I mean, questions have come in. Bear with me, sorry, I'll just make a bit of space here. So I had a question for Tom. What are the ideal sizes of your, you know, sizes of businesses for your customers? Is there a minimum size or maximum size? Do you help out sole traders, or are some businesses too small? So that was for Tom.
Sorry, just clicking through. Yeah, so interestingly, we often talk about attitude when it comes to clients coming on board. So as long as clients have the right attitude in terms of where they're at with their IT, it's almost more important than size. So we do have clients that are kind of 3, 4, 5 people. Equally, we've got clients that are hundreds of people. So yeah, a lot of services can be scaled regardless of size. I'd say typically most clients have either somewhere between 10 and 100 employees. But yeah, there's ranges outside of those. So for us, it's about the attitude. We want to work with people that want to work and do stuff on their IT.
Yeah, so I have a question for Ben as well. How is UX different from other web design solutions?
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, good question. I think the way that we approach web design, as in from a user experience perspective, is we always look at your customers' needs first. Whereas I've worked in other agencies and worked with other web designers, and they approach it often from the company's perspective rather than the company's customers' perspective. So they will look at, right, what do we do? Let's think about our services. Who's our team? Let's tell everyone about our team, and think about it more from a company's perspective rather than a user's perspective. And that's, to be honest, that's the main difference. When we're doing UX, it's always a research piece where we're looking at what are the users' needs, and then all the design decisions are based on users' needs rather than necessarily the company's perspective. That's the main sort of difference, really. And
does that methodology work equally as well, for irrespective of the nature of the business or the sector that they're working in? Does it work as well for retail, or? Yeah, it does. It's I mean, we work across all disciplines, on sectors, sorry, all different sectors, and it's just that way of thinking, you know, putting yourself in the customer's shoes. I mean, obviously you're going to have business objectives as well, which need to be, you know, well put in there. It's not all just about customers' needs, but it's about about starting the journey in their shoes. Oh, thank you. Another question for Tom. You said you're working towards ISO certification. Is that something that is very onerous and essential, or is it a nice to have, or is that something that your customers demand of you?
Oh, you get different answers depending on who you ask, if I'm honest with you. So it's a bit of both. We've got a few kind of what I would call kind of enterprise contracts. So in certain arenas with certain clients, they're a necessity, mainly with larger type clients. But for us, it's equally just a nice to have. And actually, whilst to start with, I think there's a heap of process, and it can become and appear to be quite onerous. But again, I think it's where we've found benefit in it is actually once you kind of get over that and get through it, it's all there to help, and it's all there geared towards kind of, again, continuous improvement and how do we do things better and make sure everything's working.
Cool. Thank you. Ben's got a question for Sean, so I'll let you ask it yourself.
Hello, Sean. That was something you mentioned about 3D printing isn't just about for fun. It's like got proper business, you know, objectives. every time I see a 3D printer, I just get really excited, and I think of all the fun things it can do. So apologies if my questions are too fun. But are there, Sean, do you have like minimum runs, or can you just literally just do a one-off piece with your printing? How does it work with you guys?
For us, so we try not to be a bureau service. So if you want something printed, you can go online and get it printed, and it'll probably be cheaper than us, to be honest. My approach is, you want something printed, great, come in, and we'll sit down and we'll do it together. So you walk away with the knowledge of how it was done, why it was done, and you get something other than just a part. And because otherwise it's a black box, and then the knowledge leaves the Southwest. You know, so when it comes to the kind of protectionist side of defending the jobs and everything in this area, we need to make sure we keep as much knowledge in the area. So you want to print stuff, great, come on down, let's do it together. And there's always ways to get it done very cheaply. But yeah, to answer the question directly, there is no MOQ. That's the point of AM. You don't have to tool up, you don't have to do whatever. I've done lots of, well, one of the projects I've focused on was orthopedics. So we did a prosthetic legs where we'd scan the client, and we'd produce the prosthetic leg for each person individually. Stick 14 on the go, would take 2 days, and we'd get them shipped out to the client straight away. So mass customization is the cornerstone of AM.
Nice. And is there have you got like a big waiting list in terms of capacity and when jobs can start and things like that?
No, our biggest constraint is actually me. So I'm trying to balance a couple of things at the minute. But yeah, absolutely, we can print. I'm hoping to put on a few runs next week, so stuff can go on the machine.
Thinking 3D printed cookies, Ben, is it?
No, you never know.
It does exist. It does exist.
We've been printing 25-year anniversary Plymouth Science Park key rings. So at this point I should hold one up, but we haven't got one with me. But so okay, we have a minute to go, and we are bang on time. So it just remains for me to say thank you so much to our speakers today. So Tom, Ben, and Sean. Our next session is in 2 weeks' time, Thursday the 31st of March, where we'll be hearing from Gathering Momentum, Disruption Works, and the Economic Development team from Plymouth City Council. So thanks ever so much, and we'll see you again soon.